Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine and they're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his.
Trump is very misinformed about Colombia. It is a pity because he dismisses the country that knows the most about cocaine trafficking. It seems that his interlocutors deceive him completely.
Colombia has urgently deployed additional military forces along the nation's extensive border with Venezuela immediately following America's controversial airstrikes, aiming to secure the volatile frontier amid rising regional instability. This rapid mobilization comes directly as political and social chaos continues to unfold violently across Venezuela, sparking widespread fears of another massive refugee influx overwhelming Colombia's already strained border infrastructure and resources. President Gustavo Petro publicly stated that Colombia feels deeply concerned about the looming threat of desperate refugees fleeing the catastrophic aftermath of the devastating U.S. military attack into neighboring Venezuelan territory. The shocking and sudden removal of longtime strongman Nicolas Maduro from power has left Colombia reeling in disbelief, with a left-leaning government now actively bracing for severe economic and security repercussions rippling across the shared border. Remember, Colombia has formally and forcefully rejected what it characterizes as blatant U.S. aggression against the sovereignty of Venezuela, positioning itself against Washington's interventionist approach in Latin America. Gustavo Petro said, and I quote, "The Colombian government rejects this aggression to Venezuela's and Latin America's sovereignty. Internal conflicts among peoples are solved by those people in peace. This is the principle of self-determination of the peoples that is the base of the UN system. I invite the Venezuelan people to find the path of civil dialogue and unity. There is no nation without sovereignty. Peace is the path and dialogue between the peoples is fundamental for national unity." Unquote. Colombia's sprawling 2,219-kilometer eastern border region with Venezuela remains a historic hotbed teeming with armed rebellion groups, rampant cocaine production labs, and entrenched transnational criminal organizations exploiting weak governance. Analysts warn that Nicolas Maduro's abrupt deposition through external military force could dramatically aggravate Colombia's already deteriorating internal security situation, unleashing new waves of violence and destabilization. While international refugee advocacy groups urgently warn that Colombia would inevitably bear the overwhelming brunt of any possible new migration crisis spilling over from Venezuela's collapsing political order. To date, Colombia has received and hosted the highest number of Venezuelan refugees of any nation worldwide, absorbing millions despite limited resources and domestic political opposition to open borders. Around 3 to 8 million desperate people who have already fled Venezuela's economic collapse are now settled across Colombia, placing unprecedented strain on housing, healthcare, and public services nationwide. The previous massive wave of migration back in 2019 demanded a colossal humanitarian operation involving tent cities, emergency aid distribution, and international funding to house and feed the surging refugee population. Any similar humanitarian operation today would prove far more challenging for cash-strapped Colombia, especially now that the country has lost around 70% of all its allocated international humanitarian assistance funds due to donor fatigue and shifting priorities. Juan Carlos Valoria said, and I quote, "There is a real possibility of short-term population movement, both precautionary and forced, especially if instability, reprisals, or power vacuums emerge. Colombia must prepare proactively by activating protection mechanisms, humanitarian corridors, and asylum systems. Not only to respond to potential arrivals, but to prevent chaos and human rights violations at the border." Unquote. Maduro's dramatic removal raises profoundly difficult strategic and diplomatic questions for President Petro, who is already engaged in a heated war of words with US President Donald Trump over regional security matters. The leftist leader previously drew Trump's fiery ire when he passionately condemned Washington's provocative military buildup throughout the Caribbean region as an unacceptable threat to Latin American sovereignty. Petro also alleged publicly that a hapless Colombian fisherman had been tragically killed within its own territorial waters by stray munitions or collateral damage from recent U.S. airstrikes conducted nearby. In swift and harsh response to these accusations, the White House slapped personal sanctions directly on Petro himself, with Trump repeatedly calling him a dangerous thug and an illegal drug dealer undermining regional stability. Trump has, on multiple high-profile occasions, openly floated the possibility of launching unilateral military strikes against deep jungle drug production sites and cartel infrastructure located deep within sovereign Colombian territory.
Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
it sounds good to me.
Secretary Rubio mentioned.
You know why? Because they kill a lot of people, yeah.
Y aquí estamos siendo amenazados.
Here we are being threatened, and Colombia is not to be threatened. Because how much blood from you or from the national police and from everyday Colombians and from those who are not everyday Colombians? Because how many leaders of this country have died at the hands of drug trafficking for them to come and tell us today that we are not fighting against drug trafficking and that there's a cartel of the sons here? We defend sovereignty with our lives here. And we warn that Colombia does not allow itself to be threatened, and that whoever moves from threat to action will only awaken the American jaguar that is asleep in the heart of the people.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.